Hello, everybody. There was some kind of goofy problem uh, getting going, so I thought, well, I'll start early and we'll see what happens. Okay, if somebody is here, say hello or say something. Hi, Eddie. How you doing? Um, the, the topic we're going to talk about, and I just like to get some feedback from you. And this was Clyde's idea and I'll give him credit for it, not to blame. And that is that talk about the watches you get in terms of well, what do you really want? And it seems like a a good topic to me. Is that people, what do you get a watch for? And so what kind of person are you? So let's talk about that. Let me get some ideas from you first. Eddie, you have any ideas on that? What are most of your watches like? Hmm. Well, let me ask you. Let me put it this way. Um, Sporty watches. Okay. All right. That sporty watches are probably the most popular watches. How did you come by to identify that sporty watches sort of represent who you are and what you like. Have one or two dress watches. Okay. All right. So there's sort of a more general personality. Hi, Eon. Or is it Ion or Eon? Ion. Hi, Bob. Um, uh, if you guys just got here, I don't know if you heard what I was talking with Eddie about, but I'm trying to get an idea. And Clyde and I were talking about this. Is that to to have a discussion about well the kinds of watches you get and who you are. Hey, Eric, how you doing? Um, okay, you started off with a stainless steel quartz watch, Victor. That's a Swiss Army knife watch, for lack of a better term. Yeah, those are very cool. I started off as in terms of watches I mean in terms of good watches in a similar way. I mean, for years I just had whatever threw something on my wrist that was ticking, and then the quartz crisis came along, and I got all excited about an Accutron. I thought Accutrons were really cool because they had a little thing in it, and Accutrons I guess would sort of fly as a sports watch. Wasn't interested at all in a dress watch at the time when I was younger, and now I don't know. How about for some of the rest of you guys? The heft of a watch. That's something. This is this is not a very big watch. This is my FP Jorn Resonance Chrono at Resonant. But a good watch is gonna have a heft to it. Cheap watches feel really tinny and light. There are probably some exceptions to that, but yeah, I agree with you. Good heft and a watch. One, ironically, I was judging a watch. I guess I was at a show in New York for the Watch Time show a couple years ago, and somehow I ended up at the Fred. Oh, hang on. Gonna get this probably one of those pesty calls. Oh, good. Somebody else got it. My wife. All right. So anyway, I was at this show and I was at I was taking a look at Frederick Constant. And the rep there was it was at the end of the show and he's getting ready to go home and he gave me a heck of a deal on the watch. And So there was a tiny. He said, "Here, take a look at this," and I looked at the Frederick Conson watch. Excuse me. And the thing that impressed me about it, it did have that heft of a good quality watch. Um, Eon. I well, we don't have sound, so I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Titanium, it's not just the casing. You can have an aluminum watch and it can have a good heft to it because of the kinds of things they put into the movement. But you are right. I mean, things like titanium may be a little something else. Yeah, Eric. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, the thin watches, I agree, will not have it. But most of the quality watches I've encountered have a quality heft to them. I have a bunch of watches that are of much lesser quality that they don't have the feel of quality. My wife has a very small reverso, but it's got the heft to it, and the Jaja Lecoultre a thin, my Patek Philippe, very thin Patek Philippe has. It's got a more heft to it than for that. But that's not. I'm sorry, but I got off the topic. That's my fault. Um, let's see, an internship at FC, cool brand. Oh, Frederick Conson. Okay. Um, nice things to Solita movements. Okay. I about the JLC Perpetual Calendar, Master Ultra Thin and Steel. Love it. Um, the Oh, Eric, I'm not sure about that. I think there's more to something in the movement. I may be wrong, but I mean, if you have obviously if you have a gold watch with a big case, it's going to weigh more. Period. I've got this El Ra that has a little dinky movement in it, and the thing is solid gold. It You don't feel the heft though, in the same way that a really good high quality movement would. If there's some, if you take a look at the El Ras that have their case filled with a Vaussure or one of their own in-house movement, it feels a little different. Okay, getting off the topic. Sorry about that. Like I said, all right. So write anything you want, but let's talk about the who you who you are and what's important to you. Okay, like a person's watches reflect their interest. Eddie had the perfect thing to start off with. He said most of his are sport watches. Uh, when I was younger, I had mainly sports watches. As I became of a certain age, I sort of migrated over toward more two kinds of watches. One is dress watches, and the other ones are watches with interesting movements. This, if you can see it, my Resonance watch has got a really interesting movement in it with the resonance between the two, uh, not flywheel, balance wheels, uh, giving it uh, a timing so that everything is the same. And I think that this is what the Pjorn wanted to do with it. Let me see if I can show this to you close up. Let me see. Can you see that? Okay. Can you see that? Now look at the second hands and the other hands. They were set and they stayed perfectly in sync with the resonance in it. Okay, so that's to me is interesting. Uh, I get all my watches over there in that case. I don't want to go crawling over there. So going back, okay, those are my interests. I like something interesting about the watch, and I tend toward dress watches. I do have sports watches, and that's for doing sporty stuff. Okay, Eddie, you're still in high school. Um, when I was in high school, I wasn't anywhere near as advanced as you were. I, when I was in high school, I was just trying to figure out how to get out of high school. Um, and going surfing. So that was my and working. Okay. Um, Okay, 2 minutes. I'll answer this question since I brought this up. Do I have to reset it? Um, what I do, this is a hand wound. I let it wind all the way down to nothing. So I like to stretch out uh, the band, not the band, but oh god, getting a brain fart. Um, I like to stretch out the oh come on, what I can't think of the word. Uh, the the spring, the mainspring, get it stretched out totally. What happens, I think, if you let a watch unwind only partially, then you're going to have the coiled up. The mainspring is going to be coiled in certain parts, and you can run into problem. I got this from a watchmaker. This is not something I made up. Stuff I make up is really dumb. Okay, Eddie. Okay, great. We'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so let's go back about that. What kind of watches are you attracted to, and why? Anybody? That's the topic. And where is Clyde? This was Clyde's idea. He's got to get here pretty soon, I hope. Okay, and anyone. Okay. Eric, how about yours? You've got some really interesting watches. Uh, anything with an interesting movement. Okay. Uh, tube mates. All right. Anything with an interesting movement. Yeah, I'm with you on that. What are some other watches that you guys like to collect? Now, this was again the idea of this discussion was came from Clyde, and Clyde's point is this, and I think it's an interesting one. Um, the and that is that instead of getting watches you think that you should get, the ones you can't afford, me too. If the ones if you're attracted to ones for certain reasons in terms of what your interests are and who you are. Now, this is somebody says, "Oh, you got to get this kind of watch," and you don't feel like you really want it that much. And the the that kind of thing. In other words, what makes you happy in a watch? If you have a bunch of watches because you think other people think that you should have it, um, that can lead to, oh well, I got this watch and I'm not too happy with it. If all of your friends have a certain kind of watch and you want to watch because of that and you like it because your friends like it, and you all spend a lot of time talking about the kind of watches you have. Let's say that everybody gets an Omega or a Zenith or a Patek Philippe. It doesn't matter. Uh, it, oh, dude, God, everything is going off at the same time. Um, Nobody ever calls. I suddenly getting calls and everything. Okay. Uh, I Bomb and Messier, the Clifton Perpetual is it has a Bashir movement. Um, yeah, that's an interesting one. And I know I'm saying Bomb and Messier wrong, but that's okay. Um, eh, things that you like. Okay, Hisham attracted to Rolex and JLC. Now that's a very interesting combination. Um, eh, what kind of JLCs do you like? Um, Eric, yeah, you're not attracted to expensive watches. Um, oh, boy, I'm gonna have to call back later. Sorry. Okay. All right. Where was I? A Reverso primarily. Okay, Reverso is a sports watch. It was designed, as you probably know, for yeah, because of its history, and it's got an interesting history. Um, Eric, i- the if you're not attracted to expensive watches, I'm attracted to all different kinds of watches. Some of them are expensive and I can't afford. There's one I saw, a new one that I really liked. It was what's it called? It's the Caliber 5 by Lang and Hain, and it has a type of move. It's called a remontoire, and the remontoire is attached somehow to the. It's attached to uh, the escape wheel, and which is really an interesting aspect to it. I can't $70,000. I'm not gonna. I can't afford that. Now maybe someday on a used market there'll be one that's available that I can afford, but till then, I have to wait. Um, okay, some of the other ones that you have, Eric, you're interested. You have some very interesting watches. You got some fantastic watches. Here you have the one you mentioned, the Blue Dial Omegas. Those are great watches. Those are really interesting. Some of mine. Let's see, not the prices. I would buy an FP Journe, but not a Patek Philippe Calatrava. Okay. Yeah, I can understand. I like my old Calatrava, my 1968 Calatrava. I love it. But the thing is, I don't wear it too much because I was told, I said, well, you got to be careful. These, some of these, you'll break it. Well, okay. I saw 4 hours ago a Patek Philippe for 61K. Woo, that's a lot of money. Um, the that's the other thing. There are a lot of watches. If you can find some good watches, my strategy has been pretty much trying to find mm, the kind of thing I like. There he is. There's Clyde. Thank God. Uh, how did I send the link? I probably didn't do it right, Clyde. So sorry about that. I just started up at 4 o'clock, like I thought we had planned. I had, by the way, too. I had a lot of trouble initially getting on up here. So anyhow, okay. So let's see. Yes, we all have, not by choice. Um, okay, Hisham Habib, is it okay to stick to two or three bands? See, this is the whole thing, and I think this is one of the points that Clyde made, is that it's mm, is it okay with you if you like two or three brands and you don't like the rest? That's fine. Uh, I I I don't have that. I like different brands. Some I like better than others. But if I find something, I'm not particularly fond, for example, of Cartier. But there's this one I really, really, really want because there's something special about the movement. And but Cartier in general, I don't know. Some of their newer ones and some of the what are they called? Caliber de Cartier are pretty cool. But like I said, my big thing is the watch. The interesting thing about the movements and so forth. Okay, you can stick with the same brands. Just make sure they stay heated. Okay, brand joke. Hi. What's your on your wrist today? This is on my wrist today. I better put it back on my wrist. I was talking about the kind of watches I like, and happened to mention this. Um, okay, you're wearing a. Okay, now this is something else too. I've noticed that people in different watch groups talk about watches in certain ways. Some of which is a foreign language to everybody but the people in it. Uh, this is an R. My other FP Journe is a CS. Well, those are the initials they use rather than numbers. Now you got a 1735. Is that could be a Breguet. It could be anything. Um, so let's just for my sake, and also too, Eric, you got 11 for 4270. I don't know. What do I think about the memo box? I love the memo box. I don't know why, but I do. My hearing's shot, and so I can't hear them going off, but I still like the idea of one. The Blanc Pain. Okay, thanks, Rasher. The um, the other thing, okay, Sigma, it's bedtime here in Sweden. Hey, I tried to pick an hour that was people in California as well as in Sweden could stay up. Anyway, Eric, good night. Um, Blue shirt, hi, I'm so considered harboring two Felix. Oh, I love harboring two Felixes. What you get with a harboring two Felix or their newer one is you get a watch. It's almost handmade by a master craftsman, and for the price is great. Also, too, I like hand wound watches over automatics. I'm not a fan of automatics. Maybe that's one of the reasons that I don't have a Rolex yet because I'm not an automatic fan. And the Rolex I do like is the what's that called? The Prince. They don't make it anymore, but it's got interesting stuff on it. Blanc Pain, Surfer Dude. Hey, dude. Um, the Blanc Pain. When you look at your watches, help me out here, Clyde. Your idea. Uh, how do these watches line up with who you are? I mean, is it something you get? If you get a watch, and if you get a watch, and and you like it a lot, and you use it a lot, then that's your I mean that fits who you are, but how do you decide that? And if you change, how do you change with it? Like for example, um about let's say tomorrow you win the lottery, okay? And after you pay off all your debts or whatever else you have, I'm assuming responsible things first, pay off your house, do everything you have to do. um what would the uh, what were the watches you get then? And now it's like, well, Surfer Dude, you'd probably get a new board. You'd go out and get a, what did I used to have? Uh, got the name of it. Anyway, it, I don't know EPOS watches, to tell you the truth. So I don't know about that. But what about you? I mean, this is what we're trying to sort of get a focus on. Um, oh God. Oh, I just saw that thing like Clyde. Clyde, you're a card that you got to be dealt with. Anyway, um, harboring, harboring a fugitive. Okay, Blanc Pain Perpetual Calendar, Chrono. Okay, that's in rose gold, 40 millimeter. Now, is that one you have, Surfer Dude? Oh, what my opinion of it is? Um, to tell you the truth, I don't know that much about it. A couple things I do like. Um, things that I do like about Blanc Pain is the they have sort of their history is mixed in with Frederick Piguet, and their movements have sort of emerged out of Frederick Piguet. And I like perpetual calendars. I don't have a perpetual calendar. That's another one on my list. And the one that I've seen that I like the best happens to be the H. Moser, which I just love. But then I found out something really interesting. There's a watch that is put together by these guys that have some kind of foundation in Switzerland. And the people working on it are all geniuses of some watch geniuses. And they are saying, well, the Patek Philippe perpetual calendar, which probably anybody would like to have, but it uses like I don't know how many parts, but quite a few parts. Let's say 100. parts, put in together a perpetual calendar. This guy figured out how to do it with 9 parts. Does the same thing. That to me is really interesting. Laurent Ferrier Gallet Square. I love that watch. I really do. With a brown. Charlie, I'm sort of interesting. Um, what attracted you to that? I just like the looks of it, and I know when you get a Laurent Ferrier and it goes jets, airliner. Okay, when you get a Laurent Ferrier, in certain respects, you're getting a Patek Philippe because he worked with him for such a long time. But I love his, just really like the watch. It was the looks of it. Okay, Oaksoon Jr. I don't know too much about that. Um, I looked at it at one time and I don't remember what it was. They're genius mathematically, but I'm not a fan of the looks. Okay. If this is something else too about who you are and what you do. Um, I know Clyde. Okay, come on now. Okay, modern or vintage. There you go. What do you like, modern or vintage? To me, I like them. Certain aspects of both of them. It's sort of an interesting point, Clyde. We talk about modern and vintage. You take a guy like F.P. Joyner, what does he do? He uses not Roger, but George Daniels' book on Breguet. That was his sort of his Bible, not the other one that I'm using to hold up my computer right now, but that one and the movement of the story behind the piece. Boy, um, that's a good question. Yeah. How about for the rest of you guys? What's more important to you, the movement or the story behind the movement? If you go out and you get I mean, I think to the point now where you just sort of get a pretty much a plain vanilla Omega, you're going to get a really interesting story in the coaxial movement or the coaxial escapement that's in it. The history of movement. What about the history of the movement? That's a hard one. Um, you take, for example, something really interesting. Moritz Grossman. Now, Moritz Grossman he was a famous watchmaker in Germany. And, oh God, I think her name was Christina or Christine Hutter, bought the rights to the name. And she's a watchmaker. And so now you have Moritz Grossman in Glashütte, along with A. Long and all the other ones, the major German watch companies. And she sort of like backed into the history by using a feature. I think it's something like a Breguet overcoil, but it's something else called Grossman something something that she pulled in the history of the movement into the watches. Okay, yes. Who are you? Unless you have all time. All right. The question of who am I? Oh boy. When people ask that question, Clyde, they usually associate it with some kind of general role. Okay, their gender role, they're a guy or a gal. Uh, there's their position, their jobs, their what butcher, baker, candlestick maker, something like that. And then they have sort of throughout that they have their own unique biography, but in terms of the question, who am I? And thing is, well, who's my watch? How do we match? Surfer do how I made money before I retired. I did stuff. That's how I wrote a lot of books. That's one thing that helped. I had software companies. Did all kinds of things. I had a software company with a lawyer. We really had a cool one making interrogatories, but the lawyers we were selling to stole all of our software, so we had to fold up on that. Um, and also I had a robotics making robotic interfaces and software, and then I was a professor for 40 something years. So um, in the military, I was a colonel. No, I wasn't a colonel in the military. I wasn't in the military because I can't hear with a blast. But ironically, not only was my father a colonel in the military, he was from Kentucky. So unfortunately, not part of the fried chicken empire. Um, artillery, yeah, artillery's that's interesting kind of stuff. Okay, I'm doing machine learning with Python. Um, cool enough. I took a course. Um, no, he really was a Colonel Sanders. Yeah, he was a colonel in the Air Force when he retired. Um, okay, doing machine learning with Python. I had a course in Python, and we learned Python by doing these games, retro games. It was through Rice University that they had through edX, and that was a trip. That was a trip. Python was unlike any language. I mean, the way that Python deals with graphics is wild. I became a big fan of PHP, but more importantly, I got into object-oriented programming, design patterns, big time, and then I got into Haskell, which led me to Lambda calculus, which is another insane but a lot of fun. I don't know. Earlier today, I was at somebody sent me a thing. Well, what is object-oriented programming? Like, what am I still doing this for? Okay. All right, Clyde, you were part of the first DARPA project. Yes, yes, I was. Wasn't my fault. I wasn't doing anything. I was at, there were the first four universities that were on the internet were UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, where I was, Stanford University, and the University of Utah. And that was when the first internet was done. This is back in 67, which was actually a year after I graduated. But I used to have to write up what we did before then. We would write our cards up and then put them in a card reader, send them down the phone lines to UCLA, and a couple days later, the results would come back. Okay, enough of that. Okay, so that's the year I was born. Okay, so I'm older than everybody. Um, okay, let's see. But to me, I try a lot of different things. That's just to me, if it's interesting and fun, I'll do it. Watch collection is one of those things. All right, so let's go back to how about you guys? What's up with that? Oh, Eddie, how you back? Prepare 50 birthday present. Beauvais 1930. Oh boy, I tell you, I love my Beauvais 1930. This is the thing I like about this is the back of it. Look at how the movement totally fits the case. Okay, I'm not a big fan of ones that have a big case and a little movement. Um, this watch is totally different. I'm gonna put it on. So why this watch? What's going on with this movement back here? You know, it uh, the movements by Beauvais are made by what is called Demier, I think, 1738, and they make everything from the hairsprings to the balance wheel. They make the whole thing. And I got my wife one too. She got hers. She got hers was the expensive one. Mine was in stainless steel. Hers was in 18 karat gold. And but man, they are such good watches. You wind it up here. This guy has been taking a rest because I took it on the cruise with me, and I just like being around it. But I'm giving it a rest right now. So it'll be until July, then it's back to work with it. Nomos, I love Nomos. Nomos, you realize that Nomos was Philippe Dufour was asked, what watch under, uh, I think under $10,000 would you recommend? And he said Nomos. So anyway, yeah, Beauvais. This is something, you can find a lot of good deals on Beauvais. You really can. If you look around, the reason, um, the reason for that is people like other. I mean, they're the kind of watches. Okay, Roger Smith. Roger Smith. He liked. And he wears one too. He likes Rolexes. Rolexes are nice watches. There's lots of people like them. If your identity is such, you'll like them. Rolex Explorer. Well, now that's one I like. I like the uh, what's it called? The Polar Rolex Explorer 2. That I really like. Um, Okay, so let's talk about some more watches. Let's talk about you and watches. Come on, Clyde, help me out. The question is, yeah, who am I, and what am I doing with these watches that I have, and what watches do I feel good at having? I've got my two right here. For I got, I feel good about just about all my watches. Um, Sometimes you'll get some really snarky stuff from people who are very, mainstream and narrow-minded. The incredible number of bigots, what I call watch bigots. There's nothing you can do about them. Um, and you can't win. I mean, if you get something like a real standard kind of watch, like a Rolex, there's going to be people, wow, Rolexes. They'll say something bad about them. And so I don't know. What are you going to do? So going back to the question is, who are you? I've been looking for. Now, remember what I just tell you guys about using numbers? I don't know what that number 114270. Steve, uh, tell me what a FP Journe R is. Okay, I don't know. You throwing numbers at me. What's the name of the watch, Steve? Stephen D. Been looking for 114270 XYZ ABCD. No, I'm not gonna. Oh yeah. Well, the creeps. Yeah, you got to ignore the creeps. Better yet, try to. I mean, try to find out what they like. I mean, why would somebody just be a creep all the time? Um, Eddie, what is a good entry level high horology piece that won't draw too much unwanted attention? Independent maker if possible. Can be a vintage or a pre-owned. Oh boy. One of the things that's what Vacheron Constantin sort of prides itself on. Um, Clyde, it's my fault because of my involvement with the internet. Yeah. And video. I was back doing video in 2000 when everything we did we had to write. This is why I like YouTube so much. I don't have to write any code. This is great. Uh, the Vacheron Constantin overseas. One I like even better now. I like the overseas. I had one. I had to. Unfortunately, mine is gone because I had to get it to get my wife's. But the Quadrille, it's about $5,000 less. I swear it looks better. At least it does on me. And it comes with two straps, a gaiter and a rubber strap for more active stuff. But it's got the same movement, the 5100, that the new overseas does, which is a wonderful movement. Okay, Colin, you like the Richard Milne. Now this is the kind of individuality I think is important. Sorry. Okay, 36 millimeter EXP1. EXP. Where did Stephen D go? There he is. Okay, why is a good that you don't lose your shirt or service costs if that exists? Um, I don't know if it exists or not. I My two best. watches, I guess, in terms of some criteria. Um, my two FP Journes, I spent a lot of money getting those, what I consider to be sort of the starting point. I had no idea when the last service was, and nobody else did either. Um, Mr. Abs 220. What do I think of Beauvais? I already told you. I love Beauvais. Love Beauvais. There it is again. My Beauvais. Why do I like Beauvais? They make everything in the watch. Everything. And interesting history. But see, this is another thing that we come up with. We got a disconnected history. Here you have the Beauvais family, and then they sort of lost interest. And I think probably the last was in the 1930s, 1940s, and then boom, they sort of shrugged away somewhere. But now you've got this guy comes along. He's got millions of dollars, and he starts it up again. And he did it right. He got all of the he got everything you really need for a good watch company. Plus, he wanted to continue the history of it, which is great. Okay, guys, it's 4:31. I can only do this for half an hour, and then I then up comes a rolling pin, so I'm going to have to scoot. Clyde, thank you. Oh, Thomas Ninkrist. Ah, I'm gonna may be able to tell you something about that in about a couple weeks. I'm going to go visit a Thomas Ninkrist. Okay, um, Clyde. We'll see you guys later. Take care.